Hello! In this video, we're going to be going over how to customize your action bars using the Bartender4 add-on. This is going to let you change the size, shape, the location of your action bars, and kind of tweak that to whatever suits your particular character or your entire account. So when we start off, I've got all the default Blizzard action bars available and shown here. So we've got our normal one, we've got our extra ones, our top bars, our side bars, all that kind of good stuff. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to enable our Bartender4 add-on, reload our UI. And now you're going to see it looks a little bit different. I think personally it looks a little bit uglier now, but maybe this is something that you like. If we want to get into the configuration menu for Bartender, then we can type /BT into chat. That will pull up the configuration menu for Bartender4. So first off, we've got a couple options here up at the top. We've got lock all bars. If you uncheck this, that'll unlock the bars. We'll talk about that in a minute. You can lock buttons, and there is a mini map right here, Bartender mini map icon. You can turn that on or off. So first off, there are some presets down here if you wanted to change things, and this will reset your profile completely. It'll change everything up for you. So if you want to use one of these, you can. For example, we could do like 2 bars wide. We could do 3 bars stacked and full reset. But we're going to do Blizzard interface. That's the default one that's going to be set up normally. You can set profiles for your different characters. So if you wanted to create a profile just for your main and then an entirely different setup for your alt character, you could do that. You can also set up your profiles so that they are spec specific. So I'm here on a Blood Death Knight right now, and I could set this up so that I have one interface set up for Blood, then one for Frost, then one for Unholy. That's a little bit overkill in my opinion, but some people, that's useful for them. I personally think if you're starting out and you just want to mess with your bars, just don't worry about profiles, just make something that works. You can always get onto a character and disable this add-on for that character so that you can, mess with their stuff later on at a different time. But generally, I would start by creating a nice layout that you like, that you think you would use on all your characters, regardless of what their specialization is. Alright, so if we jump back up here to bars, this is the general options for our bars. So first off, you can toggle on whether or not to use the Blizzard Vehicle UI. I recommend that you do this just because it makes it a lot more simple to use this because you're not in a vehicle that often, but when you are, like, you're not in it for that long. So just leaving this check just kind of simplifies the whole process for you. If it's really going to bother you, you can come in here and uncheck that, and you can customize the vehicle UI however you like. There's some other options in here. They're pretty self-explanatory if you hover over them and read the little descriptive tooltip that's there. So I'm not going to get into those very much. What we're going to do is get in and start talking about the bars and what you can do with them. So first off, you're going to see we have a lot of options here. We have bar 1 through bar 10. Those are just action bars. By default, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 action bars. This expands it out so that you can have 10 different bars. In order for a bar to show up, this button here that says enabled has to be checked. If you uncheck that box, then that bar won't show up on your interface anywhere. That's good because you may not need 10 bars, so you can just disable, like 4 or 5 of them and just use the other ones that you need. Then we have the bag bar. This is the bar right here that's going to show your backpack and whatever other bags you have equipped. It does not mess with the actual bag interface itself, just the bar that the bags are on. Our extra action bar, that's one that we configure that we'll see in a minute. Our micro menu is this menu down here that has your character, your spell book, your menu, all that kind of stuff. Your pet bar is for if you have a pet. Then this is the bar that shows their spells and allows you to put them on passive or assist mode and things like that. Stance bar, if you happen to have a stance, druids have stances, some other classes and specializations have stances as well, like Shadow Priest. So this will let you modify that stance bar. You've got your vehicle bar, which is the bar for when you're in a vehicle. Your zone ability bar, sometimes you have an ability in a zone. This was mostly a thing in Warlords of Draenor. I don't know how relevant it will be in Battle for Azeroth, but there's usually a big button that pops up in the middle of your screen, and it's your zone ability. And this will let you customize that bar, make it smaller, move it around, whatever you want to do there. Status tracking bar, that's going to be your buffs and things like that. And then the Blizzard art bar is actually these eagles and things here. So we're going to go through each of these, talk about some of these standard kind of things you may want to do. We're not going to go super in depth into every single one of these. I just want to give you enough to get you started. So first off, the Blizzard art bar. If you want to turn this off, you can hit the enabled bar, and now the Blizzard art bar is gone. Generally, if you're using Bartender, you're going to want to do this because you want to customize all these to your liking, and having a random group of eagles in there is kind of weird. So we're going to go ahead and disable that. The other thing I wanted to show real quick is if you uncheck lock, this is going to show you also, I was incorrect. Status tracking bar is this one here. It tracks your XP or your reputation or whatever you're tracking there. This will actually label all the things for you, so we can see this is bar 1, that's our micro menu, our bag bar, status tracking bar, so on and so forth. So you can see these a little better. When they're unlocked, you're able to move them around. So I can pull bar 1 out here, and then we can go ahead and we can do bar 5, bar 6, we've got bar 3, bar 4. See, I'm able to drag these all over the screen now. We could put our micro menu over here, our bag bar on top of that if we wanted, put our status tracking bar right there at the bottom, keep our pet bar down here, our zone ability bar, our extra action bar. You see, you could just pull stuff around wherever you like it. This also lets you know that, hey, where's bar 2? And you can click on bar 2 and see bar 2 is not enabled. So if we were to enable bar 2, then there's bar 2 right here. Get back in there. And we can move bar 2 around as well. Alright, so in the status tracking bar, you can either enable or disable this. The main thing you're going to want to do for the status tracking bar is adjust the scale. So it's as big or as small as you want it to be. So you do want to track your XP or your reputation as you're leveling. So that's important there. You can also adjust the alpha. This will adjust how transparent that particular element is. So, if we wanted to, we'll go ahead and lock these back. We could adjust the alpha. That way, it kind of fades out. We can still see it, but we can also see through it. As far as visibility goes, this gives you the option to hide different elements. So we can set this to always hide, and then it will never show that element. We can set it to hide when we're not in combat. So we're not in combat, and we can hide that. Hide without pet. There's a bunch of different things that you can set here. Also pretty self-explanatory as well. So we're going to leave that up. We got our zone ability bar, same options here. Same for the vehicle bar, pet bar, etc. So let's get into bar 1 and look at what you can do to actually change these bars. Because right now we just have big long rows of bars, and maybe that's not what we want. So we've got our alpha and our scale, which we already talked about. We have padding and buttons, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to enable the button grid. And that is going to make sure that we can see all of the buttons available to us. And that is going to give us a better idea of how we're adjusting our bars. So what we can do is we can adjust the padding, and that will increase the amount of space between the buttons or decrease it. So let's say we want to leave it at about a 0. We can change the buttons. So this will be the number of buttons available. So right now it's set to 12. We can drop it down to, say we just wanted 4 buttons on there. We could put that on there. We can also adjust the number of rows. So with 4 buttons and 2 rows, we get a nice little square of abilities. With 4 buttons and 4 rows, we actually get a column of abilities. So you can use the buttons and the rows to kind of create whatever shapes you want. So let's say that I just wanted a 4-button cube right here that I could use. Then I could leave it set up like this. There's some other options here you can choose. These are also pretty self-explanatory. We can adjust the visibility. Say I only want to show, my action bar when I'm in combat, then I can hide that. And if I go and get into combat, then that bar will pop up. So we'll go do that. State configuration is kind of a more advanced option that you can use. So I won't get into that in this video, but if you really like Bartender, you can figure that out. So right here, if I were to get in combat, you see that action bar popped up. And if I get out of combat, there it goes. It's gone again. Okay. And then positioning, this will help you to center your buttons and position them exactly the way that you want to if you want to get really picky about that. So we're going to go in, we're going to turn that visibility back on, and I will just show you kind of a common setup that gets used a lot. So we're going to unlock our action bars. Now generally what I would do is I'd pick, a couple of bars, like let's say we want to use 3 bars. So I'd go ahead and I would disable all these other bars. Okay. Alright, so we have bar 1, bar 2, and bar 3. So for bar 1, I may take this bar and put it right in the middle of my screen underneath my character. Go into settings. I'm going to make this a 12-button grid. And I want it to have, say 3 rows or 4 rows. Let's go with 3 rows. And that's where I'm going to put like all my core abilities that I use all the time on my character. Or I already know what those are, and I know that I have 6 of them. So I've got 6 or 5 key abilities on this character. I'll go ahead and I'll adjust my rows down. So I'll have 2 rows. And then I can bring the scale up. So I've got some nice big buttons there that show my core abilities. I could take bar 2. I could turn that into a 12 button. Let's go with 3 rows. Drag that over here. I could put the scale down a little bit so I got some smaller buttons. And I could put all of my, like offensive cooldowns over here or something. Then I could take bar 3, drag that over. We're going to click on bar 3, 12 buttons. We're going to do 3 rows again. We'll be able to put that down here. Adjust the scale. Now if I want to match it with bar 2, I can look at the scale for bar 2, 0.75. I can go into bar 3, and it's 0.75 as well. But I could type that in if I needed to. And then I want to make sure that I've got my button grid for bar 2, for bar 3, and for bar 1. So then I can lock those in place, and they're a little bit crooked, but that's okay. You could set your positioning. I'll show you an example of the positioning here. So if we wanted this to match bar 2, we can go in bar 2. Our padding is 2. Our padding on bar 3 was 5, so that's going to make it look a little better. And then if we wanted to check positioning, we can go into positioning and we can look, and we can see our X offset adjusts our horizontal offset, and our Y offset adjusts our vertical offset. So we can actually copy this number, go over to bar 3, go to positioning, and we can paste that number in and hit OK, and that's going to line it up perfectly with bar 2. Now the horizontal may be off a little bit, and that you'll have to figure it out, but you can set that up. So now, if we go ahead and we lock our bars again, we can see that, okay, we've got some different abilities here. If I wanted to drag abilities in this bar, I can, just like I would with any other action bar. And then if I were to go down and want to get into combat and fight something, I can use this bar just like I would any other one. There we go. Go over, poor cow. And that is it. That's basically, I know my UI doesn't look pretty right now. I personally don't use Bartender anymore. I did use it for quite a long time, so I'm very familiar with it. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me, and you can take the time to set this up exactly how you want. You could use a bar as a single button. If you just wanted one button, somewhere near your character, you could do that. You could set up your own custom interface. You could put your micro bar. Sometimes I used to take my micro bar, my micro menu, and put it right up here at the top, so it was kind of out of the way. And then I'd put my, my chat down here in the corner over there on this side. So you could just really customize your UI however you want using Bartender to change up your ability bars. So hopefully that has given you a resource that you can use to customize the UI to your own liking. You're going to see a lot of YouTubers using something similar to this, where they have their abilities set up in these grids. Some of them do that through some other, there are some other add-ons that you can use to do that. There's a big interface overhaul add-on called LVUI, which a lot of people use, that does something similar. But if you just want this effect, Bartender4 is going to do the trick for you. So that's all for the video. Thanks for watching.